Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sharp Cuts. Garrett May here alongside Josh Nickel, and today we've got two guests, Maverick Hatch, former national beach volleyball team player, former partner of mine, and my biological father, John May. Welcome to the show, both of you. Before we get into things, I just want to remind our listeners out there that we are on YouTube, Sharp Cuts Volleyball. Head over there. We were talking today, Josh, there's some cool stuff we can do there. We can do comments where you can tell us how awful we're saying things and how terribly we get things wrong. We love to hear that. Or if we do something good, let us know. And two, we can do polls where we can ask the audience for things. And we need a new poll to update our favorite guests of all time because we cannot have the reigning champ to be John May for that. So please subscribe. I'll put out a poll. We'll do it. It'll be great. So welcome to the show, guys. Josh, again, a second week in a row, I'm prepared. I can't believe this. But we wanted to get some spicy topics to talk about with these guys. So hopefully we have a great conversation. Hopefully we're still friends afterwards, but hey, who knows? So the first topic we wanted to talk about is something actually that you brought up, Josh, was about kind of an athlete's behavior and their candor and practice and in the environment versus their talent. And does it really matter? So I don't know what the exact example was, but, does it matter if somebody is a total dick or is rude or whatever, as long as they get the job done and win in matches? So I figured we start off there. I'm not sure if I'm ready to wade in with my opinion yet to go first, but is somebody hot and ready to give a sharp cut?
Well,
let's give it.
Go ahead, Mav.
No, I was just going to throw it. I was going to throw
come
it
on.
to Josh
It's obvious.
Nickel. It's his topic.
Oh,
I'm curious why you wanted to talk about this.
It's pretty obvious. We got two guys whose behavior is in question on the show.
Absolutely. Let's just put it out there. So when we had John May on Passin Dimes, cheap plug for the other show we do, Garrett, just the interview style, he mentioned that as a coach, you should evaluate your athletes, but you shouldn't judge them or you shouldn't label them and say, oh, they're this or they can't do that or whatever.
You said that, Dad?
You should be believing them and pushing them. And I thought it was good to get his perspective on this because, full disclosure, Maverick, I think you carry the label as somebody who was difficult to work with at times. So it'd be good to have you now who's going to be a Canada Games coach. You're big in the club development thing in BC there. Like, you're doing a lot of coaching now. But as an athlete, Maverick Hatch was maybe not the easiest athlete to work with. So I thought, with this show, Garrett and I try to know the viewers and we like to, pump it up. And I think we have two experts that can entertain our listeners on this topic right now.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think that's an understatement. It's a known fact. Garrett knows. He said we were partners. I remember one time specifically in Qatar after a match. We can get into that later. But, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for your vulnerability there, Maverick, because it's not often we get a few viewers on the show who we try, and they're like, oh, no, I try to argue with us, Logan Men being one of them. Shout out, Logan. Watch it. We're coming for you next time, bud. But, all right, I think I'm ready to give my verdict. I think I would fall on the side of I don't care to an extent how hard somebody is to work with if they're getting the job done, if they're winning, right? The goal is to win. So if you're going to go out there and get a win, we're all here for the same reason. So if somebody's winning, I'll work through all the crap we need to if we're going to get the job done. Having said that, if you're a complete asshole and losing, that's a big problem, right?
I feel like you hit the nail on the head for me. I hate to agree right off the bat here, but
I felt like you would say that, though. That's why I was leaning. I knew.
and play shitty. If you're going to be an asshole and play shitty, it doesn't matter. At the end of it does matter. At the end of the day, get the job done. Now, it's always been my opinion. Now, looking back, as an older athlete now, no longer playing, coaching, developing youth, that sort of thing, for sure, there's tons of value in supporting your partner and being a good teammate. But deep down, intrinsically, I still believe at the end of the day, if I look back, me as a player, I don't care if my partner is a complete asshole. Are you getting the job done? Are you taking care of your job on the court? Because at the end of the day, to me, that's the only thing that matters.
Well, it would be difficult for any of your partners to be assholes, Maverick, to be quite honest. and it's all relative. You know what I mean? Like, not that you were an asshole. I never, ever have I ever considered you as that. And my only comment to do with this is we all are assholes when we let our egos get in the way of our functionality.
Okay. All right. What, again, with this stuff, where do we even go with that? The meta stuff.
The what?
You're trying to go real deep on us with this. What do you think, though?
Well, no, I don't know what would qualify somebody as an a-hole.
All right,
Like
here's an example. I'll give you an example because I was thinking about this when Josh brought it up. They have to do a job at the national team of evaluating people and making decisions. So some years they put on things like coachability or, sportsmanship or whatever on this criteria. What it sounds like Maverick is saying, and I think I would tend to agree, is like those shouldn't be anywhere near this. If you're evaluating somebody for money, your job, how's your performance? How did you perform at your job? I'm curious where you would fall on that.
Like I said, I don't think it's all about interpretation of someone's behavior, right? So, many people can be rubbed the wrong way by different ways that people are behaving. I was always very demanding of my partners, and I'd let them know. I think I earned the relationship trust, so I could say, hey, where are you on that particular play, or what's that, or where's that at? And
you worded it just like that too, right?
Yeah, like
where were you on this particular play?
Yeah, where were you on that play? Like, what are you doing exactly? And I think if you've developed the right relationship with your partner, and there is a trust between you, and the fundamental must is you're delivering, then your behavior becomes immaterial. And sometimes that type of behavior can actually stimulate your team and influence the other team's perspective. They get distracted and so on and so forth. Like, you can't judge a book by its cover. And when you're in a match, you never know the influence on the outcomes of the games. And it's
so it sounds like you're saying that yes, behavior is important, but context is even more important there. That, like, if somebody's being rude to their partner, but they have a strong relationship where they can handle that, or rude to anybody else, but if it's in good faith, right, they have a good intention, they're kind of good natured about it, that it's okay. But if somebody's like burying their partner, actually a detriment to those around them, and it's not really coming from a great place, it doesn't matter if you're getting the job done because your net benefit is still negative, is what you're saying?
Yeah, the bottom line, the truth always shows itself regardless.
I think we can all agree that a team that truly believes and trusts in each other through all of the pros and cons, through dialogue on the court in game, will go further. I think this is an interesting topic, especially as Canadians, because I think in my experience, there's a lot more focus put on being polite and nice to your partner on court. Well, it's like, personally, for me, I needed to be able to play with someone where I'd be like, hey, side that friggin' ball out and let's go, and not go into a shell for me to be successful. Now, me as a coach is different than that. And I think I learned this a lot better when I got into the workforce. I mean, as a lumber trader now, like, what makes you successful on the floor is being able to work with so many different types of personalities. And that is a lesson that you don't necessarily learn as fast in beach volleyball because you're only ever working with one person. Yeah. And especially when I was on the national team, because we didn't have as much support and support staff as the national team does now. I mean, we had a mental trainer and that sort of thing, but there's benefit to having a good relationship. But I think in the heat of the moment, if that relationship is strained by someone snapping in the heat of the moment, where, whether it's ego or emotion getting the best of you, and your partner takes that in a negative connotation and then goes in the tank, or vice versa, that I think is not healthy. There needs to be that trust there. But in match, I mean, you should be able to say or do whatever. At the end of the day, I go back to my original point: get the job done. We could hate each other in the match. It doesn't matter if our relationship is strong enough. You iron that out off court, and in match, I mean, your one objective: win the game.
Yeah, I your point is kind of ringing true for me a little bit there, Maverick, because when you talk about it as Canadians, we're like often encouraged to be all focused on the positive rah-rah, on the, being a nice, polite partner. That was kind of when I was growing up. That was a huge like encouragement and a positive for, it was like kind of praised if you behaved like that. But when we played together, when kind of I was much older and I think a little bit more mature, I definitely learned a lot. I tell this story sometimes, and I want you to confirm if I've been telling it wrong. But when we went to the Cayman Islands, we're playing together, and I would say we're both adults at this point. Like I was in a stage in my life where I'm like,
sorry to interrupt you. That was 2017, I think, wasn't it?
Yes, 2017.
After hip surgery.
Yes, the 2017. So, I mean, we're both coming at this. We're going, all right, we're trying to play. We want to get the job done. Like, we're not here to mess around. Like, we're not here for like, we're coming to play in this tournament. And we played a terrible match against Jamaica. And we went to 3 sets, and we're like both dog tired because we're kind of out of shape. I was definitely out of shape. And we leave the match.
You left out the preparation we had or didn't have.
Was it terrible? I don't remember that part.
And well, there was a trials to go to that tournament.
Right. Okay.
I think we played Pepper the morning of the trials, showed up, won the trials, and then didn't train again until Cayman Islands. The first reps we had outdoors was the morning Pepper before our match.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't tell people that, but I probably should. But what I remember the most about that match is we're coming off the court and we just scraped by. The team was terrible, but and you went, when I'm tired like that, you need to play way better. You said that to me. And I turned around because I was tired too. And I was like, I said, fuck off. and then you went, wow, I've been waiting for a partner to say that to me. Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah, okay. So I've been telling that correctly. And I think that moment for you and I was like, okay, like, hey, here's 2 men who are trying to make this work. Like, we're dealing with this stuff. And I think we were much better for the rest of the tournament. And then when we came back together and played in the Nationals, we ended up winning. Like, that was a great moment. Yeah. But a lot of people would be buried by that statement,
Well, it's the same way I do it in business now. And even as I coach youth, and I let them know, like, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. And it's not that and Jamie and I talk about this all the time. It's not that I'm trying to be a dick, and I do apologize if it comes across like that, like kind of
no,
an
you don't have to
way.
try.
Like,
you don't have to try.
I just don't understand, especially in sport, why sugarcoat anything. Garrett, when I'm tired, I'd really appreciate it if you can make a few more plays. Like, whatever. Like, I need you to play better, man. Like, why is that so hard to hear? Someone tell it to me. I don't get it.
Well, because it was only hard to hear for me because I was feeling the exact same way at the time. Like, I was sucked and I was tired. I need you to make more plays for me. And then I was like, but I think at that point I realized, and we talked about it at dinner, I think that night too. And you did explain, you were like, hey, I'm not here to be an asshole. Like, I'm here to tell it like it is. And that's going to help us get past it and be better. Right. Like, we got to deal with this if we're trying to win, which I really respected. So I do see that part of the point, which I really like, but I definitely don't see that a lot. And Josh, maybe you can give us the inside scoop. Like, if you see somebody's behaving like that, what's the impression from the admin side of things, looking at who's not really there on the sand, or is it on the sand, but not really playing the game?
Well, definitely. I think that's the other layer to this. I think we can all agree that like performance on the court and your relationship with your partner is important. But as you hinted earlier, Garrett, there's about 9 categories in your carding, or 10 categories to get carded. And I think 5 of them are like off-court behaviors. Like, what's your international potential? What's your coachability? What's your ability to plan? So Maverick mentioned there wasn't much of a support team when he was coming through, but now there is. There's a full-time support team, and they want to be aware. They want to manage your load. They want to take care of your S&C. So you need to communicate. You need to have a plan, stick to a plan, follow a plan. And I think some athletes get labeled as difficult because, 1, they don't take feedback very well, and 2, they're terrible planners, right? So I think that's another area athletes can be labeled as difficult, is if you want to show up to Tuesday practice with John and say, I don't feel like jumping today, and John's going to go, no, like, we're jumping today. So obviously, like, your load's going to be pretty high, and that affects your S&C maybe in the afternoon, and then it just ripple effects through the program, right? So I think, I'm totally on board with you guys talking about like the athlete and the team within the team, but there's also people responsible for your performance, and that's where maybe athletes get labeled difficult, is they're just hard to deal with logistics and planning.
So what do you do with a guy who comes in, or a girl, who is is a great communicator, actually, and on top of their stuff, but it's just unpleasant to be around.
Well, I think in our system, they get swallowed up and they get labeled, right? Where it's funny running this podcast, I get to talk to a lot of interesting people. And Joe Trinsley, the scout for Women's USA Volleyball, they've had a lot of success. He goes, there's a reason I'm the only math major on the team. We want physical beings who are going to be aggressive and go out and win games. So if they miss their daily check-in, do we really care? If they don't do this, do we really care if they perform on the court, right? Where we're kind of the other way, where you've signed a contract, you're an employee technically, and you need to do A, B, and C to be successful. So if you don't do those things, I think they get warned, they get talked to, they get explained the value of it, but eventually they might just fizzle out because they're going to score low in those categories.
Which is, it's interesting.
See, this is where Maverick's going to light up, because Maverick maybe wasn't strong at these things, but he could block and serve with the best of them. So obviously he deserves a spot on the squad, right?
Well, let's get things straight. I would consider myself fairly detail-oriented and planning well, but some of those other things when I was younger, sure. But as a coach, I always want to work with those challenging athletes, because in my experience, being one of those athletes as a younger player and working with a lot of those athletes, I've coached since 2009, so a little while now, not nearly as long as Shooter, but John, and I want to hear what you think too. But those athletes that are the toughest to work with, those in my experience are usually the ones that can change a game on their own. They can influence the outcome of a match on their own. And they're challenging to work with. They have so much fire inside. They just don't know how to deliver it. They don't know how to direct it. They don't know how to act professionally. And so they just need someone to invest the time. And, you know, Leonard for the national team back in the day gave me the benefit of the doubt and worked with me and sat down and, you know, compared similar things to German athletes he's worked with and that sort of thing. And then, you know, he went away and whatever, and new coaches came in, and slowly over time, it was just like, Maverick, which whatever, I was fine with it. I'll always lay
to
in
the point
bed
now where everyone's like, who's Maverick? Forget that guy, right? Oh.
Yeah. What, Maverick Patch on the show? What? Who? Oh, he's married to Jamie. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right.
But I mean, like, those athletes, in my opinion, are the ones that have a super high ceiling. If you can get through to them and help them work through whatever's going on internally and unlock and refocus their energy.
Have you seen that, Dad? Would that be your impression as well?
Well, as a coach, part of your responsibility is to take a stance to a certain extent in whatever behaviors are going on and create an environment, you know, for athletes to maximize. So if you see something or something, you know, triggers you, you're part of the ecosystem, if you will. So you're giving your judgments and your perspectives, which I think is helpful, because usually the coach has seen a few things over the years, whether they've experienced them themselves, like Maverick comes at it, and he's usually those athletes that are often critical of their partner are often critical of themselves as well. Like, they're demanding of themselves. They're demanding of high level and performance. So you want that in athletes. But I think it's a bit of the art of coaching is to understand, you know, the capabilities of athletes and be open to things that you're not that comfortable with. And oftentimes as coaches, or call it national team, you set up these criteria of the way people should be or the way they should behave, and that's not necessarily what's fundamental to success. You know, it might be statistically the way, hey, this person, you can't treat your partner like that or whatever. But I think as a coach, you have to be open to, you know, multiple types of personalities and people. And, you know, to go back to my original point, you know, you can use those tools. Your ego, the way you behave, often services you, takes you to the next level. But when it gets in the way, that's when it becomes a problem, right? And that's when we should all take a look at ourselves and go, hey, maybe our behavior isn't really serving us the way we expect it to be. And I can give you tons of examples, Josh, if it's okay, if I bring up some athletes that I've just had an experience with recently. and that's
well, it's sharp
Sergey.
cuts. Like we can name names
Yeah,
here.
so
Let's bury some people. I'm down. Like, what are we talking about here?
Sergey
Let's go.
and Chris.
I'm getting excited now.
Yeah. Sergey and Chris, I hope they're listening.
Chris was on the show. I didn't bury him as much as I would have liked to.
Chris Torr was on the show.
Who's Chris Torr?
Chris Torr is a former player. Chris Tao is a current player.
Yeah, okay, Tao, but he tore a strip off of you guys, I bet. But anyway, the issue with the issue with Sergey and Chris, Sergey's talking to Chris, actually coaching him on multiple situations, and so I had to intervene, not to say it was the first time I was in a session with them, but I just saw a lot of points brought up by Sergey that weren't relevant to anything. He was just talking out of his ass, as you might say. But I don't want to be critical of Sergey.
You were so nice until you just said he was talking out of his ass, though. That took it up a notch.
I don't want to be critical of Sergey, but Sergey's way too talented to let that get in the way of his execution. Like he definitely could be performing on the world tour and winning matches, but whatever's distracting him, I don't know what it is, but I just noticed his conversations with Chris weren't serving Chris or him, so I had to mention it. Whether I was right or wrong, who knows, but to follow that up, he wanted no part of that. He was out for the next session that was scheduled. He didn't want to hear from John May. What does John May know? He knows nothing, maybe. Now, he didn't say that, but I'm putting it here on the show that he didn't like me calling him out in front of his partner and in front of himself. So how he reacted to it, who knows? Maybe he'll call in.
Sergey, if you're listening to the show, we'd love to hear from you, by the way. But anyway, sorry.
Comment below.
Yeah, comment below. Let us know. Subscribe. We'll do a poll, and then we'll get back to you. Sharp Cuts Volleyball on YouTube.
Now, Maverick, to bring a contrast, Maverick would never shut back down from the opportunity. Once he's challenged, he'd stand up for himself and he'd deal it. And that's why, one of the things I wanted to bring up on the show, and I don't want to change the subject, but I'm looking at two of the greatest players that Canada's ever seen. Two of the greatest players retired. One won the World Championships. The other had a dominating performance like I've never seen in the Norseca Championships and won the Norsecas. Two guys that, well, now they're not even playing. So that I got to ask the question, why?
You calling us out now?
I didn't come on for this.
Yes. Now that you're challenging us, Maverick and I are actually just going to sign off, because we can't take it, right? Like that.
No.
I'm not challenging. I was kind of giving you a bit of a compliment and saying how great you are, but it's now you're retired at both very young ages when you've, one's a coach and one's a broadcaster.
I think about that a lot, though. It's hard to turn that off mentally, to go back. Not to change the topic, though. I want to go back to what you said about, not to name names, or I'm not talking about him anyway, but Sergey in terms of coaching. There's a difference. We started with performance or what do you guys say? Emotion on court. Going back to that, again, to me, it doesn't matter how it's delivered if the focus on what you're trying to discuss is a tactical approach to the match. How are we going to beat this team? However you want to deliver that information, deliver it. But if you're going to get picky on what your partner is or isn't doing, like me, I'm a blocker at the net. All I see is after they contacted the ball, I look over, is my defender going the right way or not? Of course I'll get upset if he's cheating and going the wrong way. But if I'm blocking line and he's not there to dig a hard angle hit, he's sitting middle or something, and he didn't communicate to me the tactical thought process of that, I'm going to turn around and be like, what are you doing? I'm blocking line. He just hit in the angle. You got to be there and dig that ball. But before that play, if you look at me and say, hey, I'm reading a few shot cues, I'm going to sit in the middle here. Maybe on your line blocks, be more aggressive and dip in and try and take that sharp angle hit. Then it's okay, I go and block, they hit angle by me, I miss it, defender's not there. I'm not coming down being like, where are you? Coming down okay, cool. Yeah, what adjustment are we making now?
I learned that about you pretty quickly, and I really respected that once we worked through that, because it was hey, we're talking about stuff we're doing together and trying to win the game. I have no problem with that. Like that makes a lot of sense. Where it gets me, and I hated it, and there were some people who I would play with even in a practice environment or even just for a one shot. I'm not sure if I'll name names here, but who would just coach you on stuff that was not related to how you were scoring points or any tactical decision, on like technical stuff in the middle of just a random practice or a one-off, like, oh, hey, like, hand position when you're setting the ball, or, oh, hey, defensively and you roll, oh, hey, on the serve. It's like, okay, get that trash out of my face. Like, we're trying to compete and win here. That's the stuff that really bothered me. All right, I guess I'm yeah, that's just
I
me.
think we're all in agreement, apparently.
We all agree. Yeah, I'm glad to see that bothered you.
Okay.
Like,
well, hey, are we not?
You kind of.
All right, listen. All right, you guys. I'm trying to bring some damn energy on this show, and we got to get the silent treatment.
Names? I'm not going to name names. Who is
Garrett.
coaching you on your hand position? Who?
All right, I'll name names here. Here we go. Josh Binstock.
Oh, okay. Well, that's obvious.
What?
It's obvious. That's the only guy that would
He
have.
also probably advised you to go super late on your block, who's like one of 5 athletes who can do it that time. Like, I coach it totally different. I'm like, go way early. Just go super early. Get in the hitter's way. Affect them early. Totally different.
Yeah. Well, I was feeling bad because I should have called him out on it when we had him on the show instead of taking the coward's way out and just calling him out now while we're here on the show and he's not here. So sorry, Josh, but also what the heck, man? My hands were fine.
Yeah. Well, obviously he didn't know what he was talking about. If he's talking about your hands when you're setting, like, are you kidding me? That would be where are you going with that? Like, he's way off. Sorry, I take that personally myself.
I provide some commentary because we played together, but I didn't get served very much.
I also, and this is funny too, Sam Shakhtar, because I played with him for a bit and then we didn't play together for a while and then we would pair up and practice occasionally, also started to throw a few pointers out on the court there, and I thought that was interesting given that our history, right? So I don't know, maybe it's just maybe it's an ego thing.
So Shakhtar, when after you guys won world championships, Shakhtar and I decided to play together, and I'll always remember this because I just thought it was like very unusual to hear. But this is when we were training at Downsview Park back in the day, Shakhtar and I teamed up. I wonder if he would remember this. I think we've talked about it in the past, but he looks at me. I can't remember when, early into the first season of training, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he looked at me and referred to himself as my stepping stone to become, a really great player. And I'm like, kind of threw me through a loop. I'm like, oh, what? And I remember like working on hand setting a lot at the end of the practice, and then just moments playing together and going back to the emotional and getting the job done type thing. We're playing Cayman Islands, and I think it was like in a pool play match or something, and we're in a third set, and late in the game, like they're hard on Sam, and then he gives up a few setups in a row. I can't remember. I'm probably not making many blocks either at the time, but and then later in the tournament, we make it all the way back to the final. And in the final, third set too, they're hard on Sam, and he gives up a few in a row, and we end up losing. And like we haven't got our medals yet, or maybe it was right after our medals or something like that. But going back to like Maverick the Asshole type thing, I look at him after. We're kind of happy, we finished second. I think Binstock Reader were there, and they finished third, and Puerto Rico won or something. And I look at him, and this is verbatim how I remember it anyway. I look at him and I say, "That's twice." Okay. And he's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Well, one match earlier in the tournament, really tight. We went to a third set. You missed a few side outs at the end, and we lost, and it happened in the same tournament again in the final." And I look at him and I deliberately, he's like, "What are you?" And just like instant shut down, like, "You're a fucking dick." And I walk away, and it's something I'll always remember because like, who would say that? Who would do that? Like, what kind of partnership is that? You're not helping build anything. And then, years and years later, when I'm trying to convince Sam to play with me again, I'm like, teams are like, they're serving me hard. I sucked the first 3 tournaments. Let's keep playing. He's like, "Nah, I'm going to play with Binstock." I'm like, yeah, makes sense. That may make the Olympics, so good choice. But still,
that's kind of a sad story,
so much
man.
learning. Well, it's a story I remember a lot. Sam and I played, I think, 3 or 4 years together, maybe. I forget it. But like back in my youngest years, where like it was like not a lot of thought in what was being said all the time.
Yeah, but you guys were a good team.
All right. Well, you know what? Enough about Shakhtar, because speaking of stepping stones, I think there's a few of them on his journey on this call right now, and I'm kind of sick of it. I kind of don't know if I want to go there.
2 stepping stones here.
Okay. Well, speaking of coaching and stuff, we were kind of on that topic briefly, and I'd like to revisit it because I think there's maybe some interesting thoughts there, and I know, Mav, you had some thoughts on this. Is training with a coach versus training on your own. And this was something that kind of changed over my career. And back when I was a youth, we never trained with a coach. Like, I didn't have the opportunity to do that. And then kind of later in my career, it was like only led sessions in the center with the coach. Like, that's really all you could get access to, especially in the winter. So I'm kind of curious your thoughts, because Mav, we were talking kind of before, and you had expressed that there's a bit of a trend to have a reliance on the coach for beach. I know indoor it's a lot easier to have that, but for beach, a bit of a reliance on the coach to really get your work done. And that just sounded strange to me. Like, I don't know if you can maybe give context of that for our listeners. Like, is that the thing that's going on with players, or like, because I'm so out of it?
I get on the sand more here, and almost all of the youth athletes I work with, I like encourage, hey, did you get them play on the weekend? Oh no, I couldn't find anyone to train with me, or no, there was no sessions being run. I'm like, what do you mean no sessions? For the net system I have, you have it with you. You have balls. Like, just go down and set up and play. I don't know. Like, I don't get it. Like, if you're a youth athlete, you need a coach there to toss balls. And like, just go play. Like, you're the perfect example of it, Gary. You grew up just playing. I mean, granted, you were playing with like Marquise, and you had your dad there, and watching John Child and all those guys back in the day, and Hernan around. But I mean, you were just playing. You were like, to me, you're one of the definitions of a guy that's as good as you are because you just went and played and you learned in game type settings. I feel like that doesn't exist here, not at the youth level. Women will go down and play. They'll set up. But youth, it's like beach practice Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then maybe Friday if a coach is there. Like, why do you need a coach? Tell me that. Like, especially as like you're 16, 17, 18 years old, you want to go down and play NCAA beach. Like, you should be down at the net, at the beach, setting up your net and finding people to play with, in my opinion. You can't play too much. I feel like you can train too much, because if you're training specific movements, specific skills. It's high rep, it's intense. You're also getting that cardio aspect. The break, like that active recovery piece, is when you just go down and play.
Yeah. I wonder what that is.
It doesn't exist.
Because now that you mention that, I kind of feel a similar sentiment here, because I've been going down to the beach a little bit, running some sessions, some early morning sessions. And you know what I see that's kind of interesting? Speaking of just playing, I get down there at 7 a.m., and it's early. And I'm seeing people playing like rec. Like, people are down there at 6:30 a.m. playing rec. And I'm like, holy, that's commitment. And then the days I'm there till 8:30 or 9 before I leave to go to work, and I don't see like the players like the competitive players coming down to play at all. Like, where the heck are they? Right? The only sessions you really see down at the beach are ones with a coach. And it's not something I've really noticed before, but you're kind of right.
I mean, I understand it, but in Ontario, it's different. You have the national team athletes and the people that are, think they're at national team level, but aren't quite. And they're down there with their coaches training. It's great. I fully support having a personal coach. But when you go down to the beach and you're relying on these beach programs in Ontario, I don't know what it be, Timo or some club.
They have them, for sure. There's something.
So whatever it is. Why can't youth just go down and play?
So Josh, maybe you can give us some insight from the other side. I'm curious, because you're the one trying to organize and get a lot of these sessions running. Do you think, because when I was a kid, it just was the availability. I didn't have an option. If I was going to play, it was going to be on my own, or maybe I could convince my dad to run a session for me, which didn't happen that often, right? It was like once in a while, but it was on our own. We're just trying to figure it out, or with another team, right? But now, do you think the availability of that makes it so that it's like, oh, that's set up for me, I can have it, and then outside of that's like, oh, is that even a thing I should be doing?
Well, I think the pendulum swung too far the other way, right? I think when we all grew up, you could go outside and play, or you could play street hockey, you could do stuff that was like self-organized. Where now I just see kids, they play sports when it's like scheduled for them. They don't self-organize. And I think that is totally involved in beach volleyball. But if I were to take the counter here, I think feedback is important. Like that's a pillar of learning. So I understand the role of the coach, but I experienced that with the national team. I think like to Maverick's earlier point that athletes are relying on it. I have 28-year-olds who have been late on the national team since their 20s saying, hey, can you watch my approach here? Dude, we're trying to win medals internationally. And you're saying, Coach, can you watch my approach here? Are we thinking about winning a 4-star? Or are you thinking about working on your approach today? Like there's some weird stuff where they want coaches' approval and they want that type of feedback versus I'd rather talk tactically and what are we going to do to win tournaments versus like, hey, did I shuffle to the left after I passed that ball? It's like, dude, we're so far beyond this.
Where the hell does that come from?
John, you're running session. How much feedback do you give in a session versus how much just encouragement and energy do you give?
Yeah, I don't give much technical feedback. It's all about the reaction to the moments. If you're
Fair.
if you're at that level, it's interesting, Mav, that you bring that up, and Garrett, it's interesting your perspective of how you developed in the sport of just playing. I do agree, Josh, like we're kids now, everything's structured for them. But that's a fundamental evolution of what we're dealing with coaching. And I not to get too dramatic about it, it saddens me because that's not what beach volleyball is about.
So the organization saddens you?
No, the fact that beach volleyball...
Like Josh Nickel saddens you.
Let's name names here.
No, but let's face it. Beach volleyball, for me, and what you're saying, Garrett, for you, was something you just went and played, and that's how you developed. And here I am now, a coach of beach volleyball, and I know the power and influence of coaching, but I really struggle with the way it moves the sport out of that independence of the athlete, because it's all about the independence of the athlete. That's what's successful. But then you look at a team like Norway, and, I don't think they got to where they're at by just playing. They had a dad that was a beach volleyball guy, not too dissimilar, Garrett, to probably our relationship growing up with the sport. I don't know if they were involved in indoor like you were, but probably, I always, when I looked at it as a parent and a volleyball person, I thought indoor was the place you trained and beach was the place you went and experienced it and just played. I tried to avoid going down and running sessions. I tried to avoid being too influential there because I was in the gym 4 days a week with a group of guys and I didn't want to be coaching. Well, not that I didn't want to be coaching them, but I wanted them to have their own freedoms and independence. That's why I love beach. Nobody told me what to do. It was up to me. So I earned everything I got in beach, and I wanted that to continue. So it truly saddens me. And I think the national team, we can't blame the national team for that.
Okay, speaking of blame, though, because I was going to go there. Let's blame some people. Why would a kid, and what you mentioned earlier, Josh, about like asking for that feedback, why would a kid or an adult come in and ask for that and think that that's what they need? Is it because that's what coaches have been telling them is important for years? Like, is it the evolution of coaching in our sport where coaches think, oh, I'm going to tell them something and it's going to make them better. If I give them technical feedback, they're going to take this and they're going to improve.
Look at the best coaches. I mean, the best coaches in the world will provide a nugget and the athlete figures it out for themselves. That's why it's so important to go play. The coaches that are always yipping and yapping during practice doesn't let the athlete think for themselves. You're not coaching your athlete. You're telling your athlete, especially in beach. There's no coaching during the game. So why are you always going to be yipping and yapping? And John, that's why I asked you the question, like how much technical feedback you give. Basically zero, right? Because you focus on all the intangibles type stuff, which is clearly way more valuable. You look at Jamie and Christina's performance and their pathway and how steep and quick it was. But I mean, me as a coach, I'll be the first one to admit I talk a little much, but it's more so like just some banter and challenging just to see how athletes react. But I do look it to be quite technical, but there's a time and a place to be technical, and there's a time and a place to let your athletes just play. And if you as a coach are not able to let your athletes just play, you need to be encouraging them to go play on their own, whether you're there or not.
I totally agree. But imagine a kid who grows up, they're 8 years old and they go to a volleyball camp in the summer and they go for 5 weeks, say, and the coaches there are giving them constant technical feedback. Then they escalate. Now they're going to kind of a youth program where they're playing a little bit competitively. They get the same thing. Now they're in a provincial team program and those coaches are trying to prove themselves and thinking they got stuff. So now they get the same thing. Now you got a 19, 20-year-old athlete who for 10 years has just been gotten this, and that now they think that that's important. I'm ready to blame youth coaches. I'm ready to go to war against all. It's probably all the listeners too. So yeah, I'm ready to have a scrap. Let's go, Josh. Are you seething over there, or are you in agreement?
I think you need
you're
both.
probably pissed, aren't you?
I think you need both. I think coaches do have value. I think it has to be steered the way Maverick is. Like how we do it is we identify like KPIs, key performance indicators, and we set up those situations in practice so you can get used to those situations over and over again and get ready for like stuff that's going to be in a game, because like Maverick said, you're not coaching them from the sidelines. So I think the era of the coach talking for 20 minutes straight, there's no place for that. But I think having structure, organization, and feedback, like there's a ton of value in that, where I don't think free play always ends up that way. Like if you've read like Outliers and those other books, or even Alex Ferguson, who used to coach Man U, he mentioned like there's tons of soccer players who go to the park every weekend and they've acquired 10,000 hours, but they're not experts, because if you're just out there, you're playing for fun, you're not getting better. Like there has to be a deliberate part to it. And I think, like, just to repeat myself again, I think feedback is valuable. And if you're just playing with your friends at the beach, maybe you're not working on stuff that you need to get better, or just you're not trying new things because you only know what you and your buddies know. So if you only play with your 4 buddies every Sunday, are you really getting challenged or better versus going to tournaments, going to practices, like things like that?
Are we talking about athletes that have had no coaching going down and playing, or are we talking about athletes who have had coaching going down and playing? They should know some, what you've referred to as KPIs, to focus on when they're playing. So it's still deliberate. Just because they're quote unquote playing doesn't mean they're not, focused on what they need to be focused on during the session.
No, I agree with that. I think I would like to live in the world of both, where like if Marquise were here, he would tell you don't need coaches on the beach, right? Like I think he wants his kids to do what Garrett did and just show up and play. So I think there's an opposite end of the spectrum. I kind of got to sit on the fence here, like Jake and Logan tried to do on the show, where I think
we don't accept that here, Josh. You should know better.
I don't think you're going to have success if you only come from a program where you're heavily coached, or if you only come from a program where you do free play. I think there's time and place for both.
Well, what determines a success for a youth coach? I'm playing the blame game. So you guys have your intellectual conversations. I'm pulling out the daggers. What determines a successful coach at like the 8 to 13 years old age range, right? Because there's no Team Ontario. Like, what determines success? Like, it's who's watching them. Is the parents watching their kid, right? Who's paying for this sport? And so if you sit there and you're a parent, I mean, I get it. What if you sit there and the parent and the coach is just letting the kids play and you have no idea what you're talking about, and that kid just playing, and you go, hey, this coach is just sitting there doing nothing and I'm paying for this whole thing. Like, there's some optics there, isn't there? Like, there's got to be some.
Well, what coach shows up and just lets kids mess around?
That's me. Oh.
And what coach gets paid to coach on the beach?
Hey, newsflash, Dad. People do it.
You, Maverick, Josh, you all get paid to do it.
Are you jealous?
No.
All right.
But is that why you do it?
No.
Hey, no matter how much we might say we don't, would we do it for free?
No.
So there's this group of girls there. Most of them are NCAA. There's a group of girls, like 3 or 4 of them, going down to NCAA, and I worked with them for a couple of years. And just basically purely because I lost track of all the details and stuff, I was like, hey girls, I haven't collected any payment for this summer. Don't worry. It's on the house. Like, oh, okay, cool. Thanks. Because like, especially with beach, if it's indoor, it's different. I don't necessarily enjoy being in the gym that time. I like the athlete development side of things. That's why I want to be a coach. I like the challenge of working with different athletes and seeing the development. But on the beach, like, yes, if I had to, I would do it for free. especially in BC, where like you look at BC versus Ontario in terms of youth beach volleyball, and there's some great things going on in BC, but it's very, very centralized. There's not a lot of option out there. So, I mean, yeah, I would do it for free, Garrett.
Well, have you not ever been in a situation running a camp or something, or, and there's parents there watching and kind of evaluating your performance?
Well, what do the parents know that I don't?
Well, they know maybe nothing, but they only know what they're watching, right? That's kind of what I'm saying is, and I see it in indoor a lot more than I see it in beach, but I feel it. We're talking about some stuff that I feel like has a little bit of influence there. Like you go to an indoor camp and you get these parents who are like, oh yeah, these coaches, oh yeah, they're real. Oh, look at them. He's giving this, oh yeah, the platform. Yeah. Knows what they're talking about. Cause they don't know, like they don't understand. They're not talking about the same level. They're not listening to sharp cuts. They're not hearing these great points that we're making. And so, all you can make a judgment on is what you're seeing. And so you put it just adds to this cycle.
Well, there's a false sense of confidence there with a lot of parents, right? Like, what does this look like? It brings a lot of energy, but are my kids really getting better? Well, they're getting better because they're playing. They're not necessarily getting better because the coach. So that's something you always have to deal with. At the end of the day, if a parent doesn't like what I'm doing, well, the door is right there.
Well, you don't have to deal with it if there's no coach there and the kid is just playing.
If you're a coach, and you're even thinking about what the parents are thinking, you got to check yourself.
Well,
exactly.
Sure. Yes, I agree. But it's just like, am I the only one who is thinking that this is a thing that happens in this world? What the heck? People do this.
It does happen.
I think you're the only one.
I'm looking around at these coaches who are doing it for money they like it, but they're getting paid.
Taking money off of those athletes' parents. You're taking money off them, and you're feeling that you may not be delivering the value because you're worried about their perspective.
Are you trying to make this a deep inquiry about me?
No,
but that's right there.
I'm just nailing the nail on the head.
You're not gonna get a straight answer to John because John is very confident about his coaching. He doesn't care what anyone else thinks because he truly believes that he's making any athlete he works with better. And I would agree. No, you don't think so, John?
Yeah, no, I agree with you totally. I don't spend a lot of time questioning myself. And I've said this many times. I don't know what I'm doing. I only do what I know. So nobody can question that.
Okay.
If you do what you know and you're confident in it, then that's all you can do. You can't pretend to have this Great.
So all these kids, all they know is going to a coach-led session and relying on the coach to give them feedback. So they're going to do what they know and be confident in it.
The athlete's perspective, not to be judgmental, but,
Of us, or where is this going?
No, but maybe it is. It's too sharp of a cut. It's too sharp of a cut.
Wait, are you teasing a deep cut and then backing away?
No, but as great coaches, we should be freeing our athletes on the beach. That's what we should be doing. Get out of their way.
I agree.
So we should be encouraging them to go play on their own as well as coach.
Yes, 100%.
I agree. You see, you
guys
are taking a great moral stance. I think we're all in agreement there.
Well, it's tough for. Let me ask this question. I'll throw it out there. Josh, did you go to Quebec this weekend?
No, I didn't.
Okay. There was tons of national team athletes playing there, right? But Josh watches them all practice, and he's involved and he's engaged. And he's doing a job there where he's got all the athletes, and there they are in a competitive situation on the weekend, and he's not seeing that. And likewise, I spent time watching and running sessions for some of these same athletes, and then I didn't even see the competition.
I know. So it was interrupting our nice time this weekend. You getting the text update on the match. I was a little bit upset about it.
all I can suggest is that it's back asswards. If you're not watching the athletes compete, and many times you can't really give them, you don't know. You can't watch a video because it's not the same. Unless you're there feeling the energy of what's going on, you really don't have anything to say, in my opinion, because you don't know what's going on. Oh, you hit that ball in the bottom of the net or whatever. Like if you're only there in training sessions and running training sessions, and then they get in the competitive environment and you're not there and you're not feeling that, then are you really helping? And I don't mean that to be critical of what, but I felt that. I felt that with Will and Jake, is that you're right. He's is there because he's there with his kids, but I'm not even there with them. So am I really bringing them any value? No.
Okay.
No. Because
interesting
in the competition,
self-deprecation.
In the competition, the only value a coach can provide is in between matches.
Yeah,
so
no, I don't mean even during the games or during the tournament, Mav. But I haven't got a clue of the energy or of what they're good at or what they're bad at or what happened or whatever. I can only take shots in the dark. So, because I'm not watching them play. I'm watching them train to play. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, a few points though. Like you're suggesting that a coach is really doing nothing if they don't watch and participate in their athletes' competition. And B, secondary point, that video doesn't even substitute for that.
Oh, of course it doesn't. Come on, you guys know it's not like being there.
It's not like being there, but if you can't be there,
well, it's
basically nothing.
We all watched Sarah and Mel lose to Australia in the Olympics, right? We all watched that, I suspect.
We did. We're still mourning the loss.
We can speculate on what that felt like. But, and we can see what happened, but we don't really know what Mel was feeling or the dynamic between Mel and Sarah. We got snippets of it, but we weren't there really experiencing. We were watching it, and I was watching every detail of it, trying to get insights into what was going on. So, but
interesting point, Dad. And I should have known you would make a point like this when we asked the question. But you're trying to say that coach being present is huge, but also just have them play.
Well, in the training, you try to create an environment that stimulates a competitive situation, in my opinion. That they get to execute their skill and you create an environment.
And then when they're just playing, which we've agreed is valuable, what's the coach's role? Mav, and I think
the coach's role is zero in those moments, other than to experience those competitions. That's the value of it. That's the extreme value of it. That's where some of these other countries are benefiting by having those people there all the time, because they're experiencing that. It's,
interesting point.
That's my opinion. Because
where do you sit on that, Josh?
I think our situation almost demands that video has to be a substitute, because Jake and Will are in Budapest right now, and I'm not going to see that game, but we still want to support them and encourage them to do well, right? Like the coach has a minimal role in our sport. We can all agree on that. Like the laws of our sport say you can't coach, but I think our sport has to survive on video and different types of communication, because we have teams traveling all over the world, and the teams can't afford to fly their coach to Europe or wherever these tournaments are, and we certainly can't afford to fly ourselves to go coach them, right? So I think you got to find a creative solution. I agree with John that the best case scenario is for the coach to be there, but I don't think our sport allows it based on, I think, the budget, right?
I got a solution, guys. Virtual reality. Come on. No? All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Josh, how many teams does the national team send a coach for right now?
None. I haven't been on tour this year. Like I don't think Adrian has been on tour this year.
How come Canada can't afford it, but other small countries can?
I would like to see their funding model. Like, are they personal coaches? Are they funded by the federation? Like, what is the federation's budget line? Like, where does our money go? Obviously, it goes to support staff, facility, different types of training stuff. Like, I don't know what their insight is, but I would imagine most of them are maybe personal coaches, because I imagine when Canadians travel with a coach, it's always been the personal coach. It hasn't been the national team coaches.
And personal coach meaning that athletes pay for it.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't even know if it's so much like, don't get me wrong. Don't confuse what I'm saying is that that there's this extreme value of having a coach on the road. I'm just saying if you're not on the road, you really don't know what's going on. As much as you try to simulate it or watch the video, and you can say, oh, because if you watch a beach volleyball game on video, they're very similar, all of them. You bump it up, you set it, and the other guy tries to knock it down. And then they put up like
our sport is boring, is what you're saying.
No, it's simple. And it's all about execution.
Those are so close to synonyms. They are so close.
This is a good segue. This is a good segue. John, in your opinion, is the best way to play beach volleyball a simple way?
In my opinion, to me, it's all about fine tuning and becoming an expert in the delivery of your serve and of the simple executions. Pass it, set it, and hit it down.
Okay, so like yes. Can we get a yes?
Yes. I don't see Norway doing anything fancy. They just execute phenomenally.
Yeah,
that's it.
I'm gonna agree that that's how I think you should play if you want to be successful. But I'm not playing anymore, Mav. Like, I'm done. So as a fan, what do I want to see? I want to see them throw it around there. I want to see them run around and do all sorts of crazy stuff because I think it's hilarious. Maybe I'm alone in that.
Well, how many teams do that on tour right now and they're successful? How many?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't care if they're successful.
You know what? Here's a tactical strategy.
All right.
When the person that's getting served can get more proficient at controlling where the pass goes, so much so that their partner can jump up and hit the second ball down every time.
Okay.
And has that option.
It's simpler than 3 hits. It's only 2. It's 1 less if I get that right.
It's like, holy cow, that's deadly. But I wouldn't take it to the extreme like Australia does with these run around from B all, like I remember the guy.
Silver medalists.
Yeah, but you know how they won that? Or, by
they kept it simple, right.
Well, didn't they?
Well, I don't know. I love when teams will throw it out there and have a sick play, even if they lose 21-16, because I saw something fun.
But here's what I don't get. What player on the World Tour can't hit a ball in the court from 2 to 3 meters off the net? Not many. Why does giving an option out of serve receive need to be right on the net where you have no other option than to hit it? An option is putting the ball a little bit higher maybe so your player can get a jump and hit a fast shot over or slow or hit the ball down.
That's too logical. I don't understand. It's a logical argument. It's a smart thing.
This is what I don't understand. I especially young athletes nowadays, I feel like they get so distracted with having to run all these complicated side out options or, fast to the pin, back set here, whatever. I get the back set if you want to utilize the wind, but are you able to pass a ball where it needs to be passed 9 times out of 10? Can you set it straight up and down 9 times out of 10 without it spraying off the net deep in the court? If the answer is no, focus on passing and setting it straight ahead.
But you need to fool that single block. You got to escape that single block. You need to fool him. You need that spread. Yeah. It's that single block's too hard to escape.
Listen to this. I've been around for longer than I can even admit. When I started coaching Julie and Shanice, I was watching the signals that the blocker was giving, right? And I'm like, what's that?
Well, like telling them where to serve.
No, you know how, hey, let me really break it down. when the blocker puts fingers behind them, you put a 1 or a 2 if you're going to block cross or line.
Yeah.
But now there's like a dozen options. They got the little finger out. They've got this 4. They got all this complicated.
I'm going to start on the line. I'm going to hop cross.
Yeah. So I'm like, hang on. Time out. How about nothing but line blocks and execute it?
That sounds like a John Mayer practice.
No, it is.
I love it. I love it. That's
Hey.
what we did. That's what I did. I don't know. People never got it. It was like, no, just block line. Like, we don't need to do anything. Okay, maybe make a block. I like it.
No, but
it's boring as hell as a fan.
Well, you were always playing with good partners like Dan Deering and sorry, but myself, who, on a line block, we're reaching and taking that angle.
Yes.
Well, they won a world championship with Sam.
He was blocking, wasn't he? He's sneaky good.
Only line, really. No,
Really?
we did some other stuff. But yeah, like,
No, but seriously,
if it's going to work at least a few times,
well, wait a minute.
I want it.
We got the national team coach right here. What are all these? What's a 4? What's a 3? What's the pinky out? What's this?
Well, let's be clear.
Just
John.
as Maverick joked here, he pulled out I'm going to start here. I'm going to affect the key reading. I'm going to do this play. I'm going to do that play. Like there's some stuff going on. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the 4 call system.
There's a straight up line. There's a straight up angle. There's an X play. And then if you like it, I'm not a big fan, there's a dive line play, which is just opposite of dive X.
Yeah, but what's this? What's this?
It's the same difference.
I don't get the 4
color.
play.
What's this?
The 5? What's Josh? Do you
What's
know?
this? What's this mean?
That would be
That's a ball block.
Ball. Yeah.
Okay, we get that one.
Okay. Hey,
We get that
ball
one.
block. Okay.
What's the 4
Of course,
though?
if you're going to block the ball, just block it.
I think 4 is a line dive. You start inside and you dive back to the line as a 4, is it not?
Oh,
You know
okay.
what?
So, but if that's your 4, what's the pinky?
This is what's.
I think you're
This
looking,
is a
I think
problem.
You're looking at U.S. versus Canada here.
This is a
in terms
problem.
in terms of block calls.
Well, yeah,
US
not all
is the 3 and the 4.
All our teams don't have the same calls either, Garrett. So you got to really pay attention about like who's. Some guys don't even call it a big 2. We don't even call it the same thing as any.
Well, how
It's
about
only
the
a
John
matter of
May
time before the
just block
national
line?
team standardizes the block calls.
I think I'll start tomorrow, Mav. I'll standardize the block calls. But
Yeah,
I was just
standardize.
looking
You
at-
need one
No,
call.
but you
Line. We've heard that already.
You couldn't do that, Josh. That's the truth of it, because then they'd start saying that you don't know what you're talking about. soon as you tried to simplify things, you would be uneducated.
Well,
Hey,
Garrett, I'm
speaking
looking
on
at my
that
stats here, and nobody blocks line more than 75% of the time. So I'm just letting you know that most teams are running plays and trying to be a little bit more active. That nobody's blocking line 100% of the time. Just letting you know. The team who blocks line the most is Stoyanovsky and Krashelnikov.
Well, where's my stats? Like the Deering May stats and the Hatch May stats? Because I bet we'd be 85, 90%.
I don't have access to that era of stats.
Too old. Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it.
Have you guys ever learned, John, talking about simplifying something and then people thinking you're an idiot? Have you ever heard of footwork referred to as the pizza?
What?
No.
That's what I thought.
The pizza?
Like when you're skiing, like the
when it takes a
pizza?
cut shot, someone hits a jumbo, you take your 2 steps. Oh, it's a jumbo. You pizza, it stops your forward momentum. And you turn around and you step, lunge, something or other, and you dig the jumbo. I had a coach
Your
train.
knee buckle? Weird.
Take your pizza and your pinky and your 4 call and get out of here, is, I guess, the message.
No, but going back to the topic, though, like moving the ball around and stuff in side out. I mean, Gary, you were saying you were making a joke about the one block. You go to an indoor coach and you put a one hitter versus one blocker. Like, give the hitter a high ball. Like, this is indoor where everything is speed. You for sure have a one-on-one, no question about it. That hitter wants, a higher set, because a hitter on balance should be better than a one-on-one block every day of the week.
It's like trying to
all
score.
of these-
It's trying to score a goal in soccer penalty shot.
Oh my gosh.
I totally agree with you logically. If I were competing today, I would do the same thing. I'm not. I'm a fan. I want to see them throw it around. Like, I like watching when they do this dumb stuff, and when it doesn't work, I laugh. I think it's hilarious. When it works, I go, whoa, that was crazy. I'm interested.
Yeah, but as a fan, I like to see it too. That's why I love watching Cantor Loziak in Australia. It's fun. It's different. But as a coach, Garrett.
Oh, as a coach? Get that crap out of here. What, are you trying to do that? Garbage. Beat it. Pizza. Go practice your pizza.
Say, Garrett, you're the defender. You just dug a cut shot. You dug it low. You don't have time to get off the net. You want something quick and loopy to you, so you just get up and hit it down.
Well, my old style was, set it high and I'll just go to work. But now I may be thinking, set me a back shoot set, actually, just to, just get something interesting going. Because I'm going to screw it up no matter what, Mav. It's been a while, man. The last tournament I played in was with you, and we won the Nationals. So,
yes, we did.
Hey,
and we lost the first match of the tournament.
That comes back to me. My original question is, why are the two greatest of all time retired at such a very young age?
Yeah, well, I was tired about being a broke beach athlete. But I guess that's because I didn't get good enough results to make money. Maybe.
Yeah, I kind of agree. It's a grind, especially if you come home and it's like, oh, I don't really have a home. I got a sand pit. I just dump my head in when I need to sleep when I'm at home. Like, I don't know. Wanted to move.
Plus the other thing, like.
All right, I think that's a good sign that we've reached the end of this episode. Maverick is
he's frozen.
I'm surprised we lasted this long without some sort of technical difficulties.
It would be great over time.
Oh, we just caught it. Nice.
Oh.
Don't know what it said, but yeah, we're having some tech issues, Matt. I mean, listen, it's a wonder. You're out there in BC. We're here in Toronto. My dad's in the middle of nowhere. So I'm shocked that we lasted this long, everybody. I mean, well done. I mean, round of applause for us. Are you kidding me?
Great.
I'm still there?
You are?
Yeah, you're there, Mav. You're there. But you're frozen. Your video's frozen.
All right, he's gone.
Oh.
All right, I'm going to have to edit this later, and I'm upset about it.
Yeah.
I'm very upset. All right, I better close the show before anything else goes completely wrong. Mavic, if you can listen, great. Thanks so much for being with us. And Dad, thanks for coming as always. I think this was a pretty interesting episode we had so far, Josh. Like some real interesting conversations, some deep stuff. I think we disagreed, but it wasn't hostile,
I felt like this one was going to be spicy based on the guests we got, but we just got really deep on some good conversations. So thanks for these guys for joining. Thank you for listening if you're still with us. But yeah, Garrett, this one I thought was going to get a little heated. It didn't. I learned a lot, but here we are.
Yeah, well, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks, Mav, for being here, and you're welcome back. Thanks, Dad. Reminder, if you're still listening, thank you so much. Please comment on our video and let you know you watched till the end. Like, oh my goodness, we need to know who you are, because there's like 4 people out there, and we've had 2 of them on the show so far. So, that's saying something. So that'll do it for this one. Thanks for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.